And welcome back to Daily Dirty Podcast. I'm your host, John Croft. I hope everybody is having a great, wonderful day. So, today I want to talk about how to deal with anger management while having ADHD. Now, why is that different than regular anger management versus having ADHD with it? Well, if you listen to some of my previous podcasts, I'll talk about how ADHD rabbit holes a lot of things. It just takes you down whatever path that your mood happens to be in at that time sometimes. So with anger management, I'm going to talk about things called triggers, mental stock, and shelving issues within your mind. Now, I'm not an expert. This is just what I do that helps me out on a daily. So, first of all, let's talk about triggers. So, one thing I also want to mention is also balancing out your hormones. So, if you take testosterone, you got to balance that out with estrogen, which when your estrogen rises is going to cause a lot of issues as far as anger or temperament and things of that nature. When dealing with anger, it takes a lot to, I wouldn't say calm it down, but to be able to divert it to a different part of your mind having ADHD. So, the easiest way that I found that's been working so far, and it's a lot better, it's not completely there yet, but about how me personally, my anger can go from 0 to 60 like that, but also from 60 back down to 0 pretty quick. When anger creeps up, it also depends on the situation. So let's just take, for instance, probably my best example is driving, because everybody gets mad. Somebody cuts you off or doesn't use a blinker or something of that nature. So if someone cuts me off and I'm driving, and I can be in a good mood, and all of a sudden it's just like in your mind, you think everybody thinks like you. When you have ADHD, it's like, why can you not understand how my mind works? And people with ADHD, a lot of people are like that. They just how your mind works, and it's a little different for everybody depending on where you're at in your ADHD. If you're on medication, I don't take any medication for it because it makes it worse for me. It's either two speeds, stop or go, and I'd rather go than stop. So say someone cuts me off, and usually because we live off a highway, so it's basically you got to go from onto the street, try to get up to 70 miles an hour. Excuse me. And on the way, you got like Dairy Queen, a couple people where people just kind of pull off and they don't really pay attention to what's going on. They're just like, oh, these people will slow down. And it's like, you're cutting me off. There's nobody behind me. But when I don't mind that you're going out there. It's the fact that you're going real slow. So you couldn't wait those couple of seconds. And this is how my mind rolls it around, right? And rabbit holes it. Nobody behind me, but you cut me off and then you go real slow. So if you're not in a hurry, why couldn't you wait until I passed? So now I gotta slam on my brakes or try to hopefully get over if nobody's in that lane, just so you can kind of piddle around. And that pisses me off. So, you throw a finger, say a few cuss words. I've gotten better. I got to where, okay, first thing I do is I try to predict that there's going to be a dumbass. So I'll go ahead and just get over. And in my mind, I don't even think about it. I just try to think, well, maybe they got something going on or whatever. And I used to be just really pissed off about things like that. This is just an example. So let me give you an example when it has to do with driving. Is when my wife and I, we lived in Mesquite before we got married. And I had just got on testosterone and I was roller coastering. And I talked about that in one other podcast. Like I was just up and down with emotions and anger and jealousy and all this other kind of shit, right? And my estrogen was, found out later, it was my estrogen was too high. And we was driving at a light. And we took a left underneath the bridge to go to get on the highway. And of course, there's that loop around that someone can do that's coming the opposite end, go back that way. And we had already turned and we started going. And this guy just literally in a BMW just cut me off. Like literally, I had to slam on my brakes. And like if I didn't, I would have hit him. And so, me being that guy, I just threw my hands up and I was like, what the fuck, man? This dude slams on his brake in the middle of the street, gets out of his car, and it's like putting his hands up like you want some kind of thing. Oh, yeah. Kind of person I was in the anger I had. I was like, man, this is a good stress reliever. And I started unbuckling my belt. And Tish was like, don't go out there. Just let it go. Now, here's the part that angered me. You're stopping a man that's being challenged by another man. That's just a man thing. It's about pride. Yeah, it's like, man, I don't want this dude to think I'm a pussy. I'm going to get out and one of us is going to get hurt. I'm about to find out. And she just told me, she's like, don't get out. It's not worth it. So when I talk about ADHD and the rabbit hole and stuff, and my mind's just going a million nothing, and I have to find a way to kind of rationalize this situation. So I got this dude out here just want me to come out and we're going to go at it. And I got Tish on the side of me saying, don't do it. So I could have went out and did that because I was down. I was ready to throw down. When I stop and I think about it, I'm like, okay, is this really worth it or not? And then Tish was like, you don't know if this guy's having a bad day or maybe he's in a rush going somewhere. And my thing, again, with ADHD, I'm like, in a rush, if he was in a rush, he wouldn't have stopped. He would have just kept on going. Just said, fuck it, I'll cut this guy off. I'm just going to keep going because I got shit I got to do or whatever. Now, I do believe he's probably having a bad fucking day because he decided to stop in the middle of the street and get out of his car and act like a dumbass. And I was going to reward him for that. Now, you got to understand, my estrogen's high, my anger's high, my ADHD's all over the place, and I'm just pissed off. And then there's pride, and there's other shit being a man that we just, we beat our chest like we're king of the jungle and shit. And normally, if she wouldn't have been in the car, I would have been out there fighting. So I stopped and I was like, okay. Put my seatbelt on, put my hand out to the dude, and I was just like, all right, man, I don't want none, sorry. Of course, he does whatever a man's gonna do, like, yeah, you fucking pussy, blah, 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 and got in his car and took off. And for like 10 minutes, I was just like, man, my pride was, gone. And my mind took that to a totally different level, and I just stayed pissed for a little bit. And then Tish was like, you never know, that dude could have had a gun. And I'd rather you lose your pride for an instant than lose you forever over some dumb shit. Now, it's not the fact that I don't think I could have handled what he had to bring to the table, but I didn't have a gun, you know. And some people are just like that. They just want to act all tough and then pull out a gun and like, yeah, I'm just going to shoot you instead of fighting. It's not like it was back in the day where you fight somebody one-on-one and shit like that. No, they're just going to pull out a gun and just blow your fucking brains out and just keep on about their business. So taking that mental stock, I moved that anger to another spot. It was my first time ever doing that in my life, of trying to shelf anger or an emotion. But I calmed down because my wife it's easy for her to calm me down. I don't know how she does it, but she's very good at it. And it's good having that accountability partner to help you in those situations. She's on the outside looking in. I'm just inside, just in a ball of emotions and anger, which is an emotion. Yeah. and just a million things going on, rabbit hole and some shit, looking at outcomes because your mind is like, with ADHD, it's like you're playing chess with shit that goes on in your mind. So that was a rough day for me. But from then on, I started trying to find ways to channel my energy or shelving it for another time and tricking my mind, thinking that we'll get back to that. And eventually it gets lost in the carousel of bullshit that runs around your mind when you have ADHD. Kind of the point of that is doing the best you can, and this is for me. And what I've done is trying to slow your mind down just a little bit. And it's hard having ADHD, and what I try to do is I try to throw different scenarios in there of reversing what I'm seeing. You know, like I try to put myself in their shoes. Just try different things. Not everything works, but it's all experimental until you kind of get a good recipe of what works for you. So being angry a lot is I didn't used to be like that until I started taking testosterone. So it really didn't help me out much. At that time I was like, I didn't know men had estrogen that would raise up. So another thing that I try to do is I've talked about mental stock. Mental stock is every now and again I go on my mind on a day I'm not pissed off and update those areas that I tell my mind I'm gonna get back to later. And I come with, you know, rationalize with it. Like, okay, well, this situation was just different. It was just this. It was a misunderstanding. Blah 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 blah. And all this is going on in my mind. And I'm able to kind of close that case. You know, not put that in storage somewhere. I'm not gonna look at it in a while. And it sounds kind of odd doing it that way, but again, if you have ADHD, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Some people, their ADHD is just it's extreme, and they have to take medication, or they're completely all over the place. It's squirrel moments, yeah, they're squirrel moments. You don't want to have a squirrel moment when it's in a serious situation. I talk about the good and bad things with ADHD, and one is time management. Being able to do a bunch of things at once. Sometimes you don't finish all those, but you can get a lot done. Um, with anger, again, it helps have an accountability partner like my wife. She's able to kind of calm me down on a lot of instances and stuff like that, and helps me rationalize the situation before acting on it. Now, it doesn't stop me from being pissed off all the time, but it does help you calm it down enough to where you don't slow your mind down, but you can focus as much as you can on that situation and, again, be able to shelf it for a later date. With anger, there's times where you feel like no one understands you, or that why can't you see what's going on? Why are you not angry with me? And a lot of times, and I don't know about anybody else's ADHD, but my ADHD has got a really vivid imagination, and it will throw some shit your way. It's like it starts crap in your mind, and you know, materializes dumb crap to keep your mind going and constantly going. It's like feeding fuel to the fire. It's like, if I get him angry, I know he's going to be on that for a hot minute. So my mind's going to be going really fast, and that's it. Those wheels want to turn quick. So basically, again, when those things happen, I try to have like something that I enjoy or something to think about because I love building cars. When I used to not like working on my wife's Mini Cooper because, for one, I hate BMWs. But the engineering in my eyes it's crazy. And I used to get pissed off and throw the tools because you got to need a special tool, or there's a thing on top of another thing that you got to take all this apart just to get to one part. But how I resolve that is, one is I do love working on cars. I mean, I like doing maintenance and shit. I mean, you need to do it, but I love building cars, making them fast, things like that. So I had to not really trick my mind, but show my mind, but I'm learning something. I've never worked on this kind of car before. What was I when I started on imports or domestics or, you know, troubleshooting engine problems and shit? Or finding out power adders to make a car quicker for less money, and shit like that. So doing that helped change those gears to where it was still moving fast, but I wasn't as angry because now I'm like, okay, look, man, we're learning something here. Let's take that rabbit hole. Let's see all the possibilities of what could be wrong and what we can do to fix this and see if we can learn and make this car better. So my mind is like, man, it's on board. It's like, let's do this. All right. So now the anger kind of fades and subsides. It's temporary at times because it could be, you know, the dog's got to go to the bathroom. So they come out there and they start messing around, and I'm usually underneath the car, and I'm just like, and these are big dogs, they end up hitting the jack stand, it's going to fall on me. So the anger creeps in. It's not nobody's fault. It's just situational shit. So that means to me, I got to take a break. So I go and talk with Tisha, smoke a cigarette, stuff like that. And then she takes the kids back in. The dogs, those are her kids. And then I try to train my mind to go back to get focused on what I'm doing. And while I'm underneath there, I'm working on something, I'm not really focused on that. I'm in autopilot physically, but mentally, I'm thinking about other things I need to do to the car, or things I need to check and stuff like that. So having a really good hobby helps out a lot. I mean, it's not going to completely take everything away. If someone tells you out there, I mean, for me personally, but if someone out there tells you, like, oh, this is the best way of doing this, this is how you can manage your anger, you do it this way and it's going to help you out. I don't believe in that shit. I honestly believe it's something that it's good to get some basics from people, you know, and you can build off that. Just get like a base of something from somebody. I've listened to podcasts and I watched some YouTube videos of anger management and ADHD, and it's just a lot of them are just full of shit, you know, because they're telling you this is what you should do, not this is what I've done. Maybe you can learn from it. This is what you should do. I'm a psychologist. Well, I took psychology too. I mean, I didn't graduate, college, but damn near. It doesn't mean shit. It just doesn't. Everybody's mind is unique in their own. Everybody's ADHD is unique in their own. Everybody's anger issues and learning how to deal with it is different from other people. Now, there might be some things that are the same, but it's your struggle. It's easy for someone else to say that, you know, this is what you do. This is how you fix this. And it just doesn't always pan out like that. Me doing these podcasts, it helps me because right now I can't work on any cars. I don't have my shop. I don't really have anywhere to work on cars unless I want to work with the great outdoors of all the elements and shit and losing everything at the same time. It's just not ideal. And plus, we don't have a car that's down right now. We got the Mini Cooper and we got my truck. So basically, what needs to be done is to take that mental stock, for me personally, and just find ways to divert that anger. I know a lot of y'all thinking, well, it's easier said than done. Yes, it is. You have to find your path with that to trick your mind into something else. It's not all people's like, oh, well, if you put more positive, you'll get positive back. It doesn't work like that with people with ADHD. Not me personally. I don't know about anybody else. It just pisses me off. Because in my mind, you're trying to tell me to feel the same way you do. That's just not going to work. For me, it doesn't work. So what I do is I just kind of take that statement and I just kind of, of course you're going to nod and say, okay, but mentally your mind isn't doing that. It's rolling around that phrase and manipulating and turning it, and you get a little smidge of anger and it's just like, here we go. Rabbit hole of anger. In those situations, I sit there and I think, I'm like, okay, how can I turn this into a positive? Again, I'll start thinking about the future. I'll start thinking about things I want to do. I'll start thinking about like the vacations I want to take with my wife, or things that once we move away from the country back to the city, side gigs, or not even that, just being able to enjoy life a little bit more because everything's at your fingertips. And I know that sounds kind of bougie, but I don't really care, man. Just live out in the country. If you just don't need anything and you enjoy driving 45 minutes one way to the store and waste half your day just getting groceries because nothing gets delivered where you're at, yeah, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you found your peaceful place like that. I'm very glad for you. It makes you feel older living out in the country, like you're retired or some shit. And we definitely ain't retired. So I take that anger towards that statement. I do the best I can to turn it around, to go down a rabbit hole of happiness or something. It's hard to explain, and it might not be for everybody, but that's what I try to do. Um, Creating these podcasts. Now I can be angry because I'll be honest with you. I do this mainly for me, and I'll talk about this in my podcast. I do this for me. If it can help others, great. If someone's going to listen, great. Is that many people viewing it? No, but I'm not mad at that. I'm just starting out, or maybe it might not ever get any, traction. But I think the biggest thing, or the misconception of a lot of people, is that, oh, well, you need all these followers, or you know, you got to get monetized and stuff like that. I'm not looking for any of that. It'd be cool if it happened, because I do love doing this. I do enjoy talking, and I love helping people out or learning from other people that might have the same issues I got or have a better way that's worked for them. It doesn't mean it's right for me, but at least having some kind of, recognition of, you're on a good path, or this helped me. It's, I love helping people. And doing that, like say my job, I used to be angry all the time because, I get passed up for promotion. I see coworkers that I don't know how the hell they got the job passing me up. I call them knee padders. You can figure that part out on your own why they need knee pads. And I used to get angry about it. And I used to vent. And to a couple coworkers, which got me in trouble. I used to vent on LinkedIn, got me in trouble. And of course, my wife has to deal with all this shit. And she's just pounding in my head that quit. That's what they want you to do. They want you to get mad. They want you to get pissed off. They you're not friends with them. Their friends are the ones that are going to get promoted and all that other kind of shit. Nobody has integrity, and it pisses me off because one of their mantras, the first thing is integrity, and it's just like, man, y'all are just lying. There's no integrity here. There's no teamwork. There's no family. All that shit that you say is part of your motto is full of shit, and I get pissed off about it. Or I see ways that can be done easier for us as engineers, and a manager is just like, no, that's not going to work. And then a week later, they implement it and say it was their idea. My wife's like, stop giving them ideas. So all that stuff really used to piss me off until about like 8 months ago. We were back in the office for a little bit. And I had this meeting with my coach because we have a coaching session, once or twice a month to kind of see where we're at, where our goals are, if there's something that I'm messing up on tickets or a new way of doing something or whatever the case may be. And I'm pretty cool with my coach. Well, not as of late, but and I kept seeing people get promoted, and I'm just wondering how these people get promoted. Like, and one of the main things they said, you got to have certifications. They have zero certifications. Like, I got an ass ton of certifications. Like, I busted my ass, got over my test anxiety to get these certifications, and I'm just an overqualified, skilled workhorse because I took a lot of cases. helped a lot of people on the side and shit that they stepped on me to get back up, right? All this shit pissed me off. Until finally, after my wife beat it in my head a million times, had that meeting, and I was basically getting screwed because it got to the point where they weren't approving my PTO and come up with excuses and shit because they got a no process for the PTO and shit. And you follow that process and you don't hear nothing. And then you're like, I say something and I'm like, well, why aren't y'all approving my PTO? Oh, I didn't even see your email. Well, that's funny because I know 3 people that did it right after I did and they got approved for PTO. So there's no way. It's the same title because that's how you want it to be. I got pissed off, and so my coach had brought in my manager, and there's these awards that other people that it's called Inspire Awards, and I had you know these advocates and higher up engineers that worked with me saying how good of an engineer I was and how I helped them do this and how to help them do that. They got to get approved by your manager. I had like 8 of them sitting there over the past year. Nope, didn't approve any of them. He basically, I didn't even know those were in there. That's funny because I know 2 or 3 other people that are on our team that they got approved. Again, you look at that and it makes you think, okay, if I'm that shitty of an engineer and you want to give me recognition, they're basically trying to force me to quit. And that's how I see it. So I can do one or 2 things. I can just continue being pissed off and probably get fired in a bad way, or I can just not give a fuck. And I'll do bare damn minimum. You don't want to do this, you want to do that? You're still going to pay me the same amount, but I'm going to do less work. I'm not killing myself. I'm not helping out nobody. I'm not doing any of that shit. You're not going to give me a raise or over. The most raise I got, I think, was like $1 or something. I mean, it's not even the cost of living. My manager at the time had the audacity to say, well, at least you got a raise. And I'm like, you're not even giving people a raise? You gave me $1. That's rough, man. When you see all their buddies just getting higher and higher food chain. Maybe it's ageism. Maybe I'm too old. I don't know. But I just said, fuck it. I was too pissed off. It was sucking the soul out of me. And I always talk about how I hate this job. I still hate it. But now I just don't give a fuck. I'll still do my job. But any of that extra shit that I used to do, no. Mm-mm. Y'all done fucked that up. I'm not training nobody. Don't come to me and hire somebody new that's higher above me and have me train them. If I can already do their job, then why did you not promote me? I just politely said, I can't do it. And they asked me why. Well, you hired them higher up than me, then specifically did that for what? They should be able to do the job. And they just kind of laughed. Well, they got to be trained. And I was like, well, get somebody that's the same pay rate as them to train them. Oh, well, we got them doing other things. What do you think I'm doing? Just sitting here at your beck and call? I mean, I didn't say that, but I wanted to. I just politely declined. No, I just can't. I've got too much on my plate. And they're just like, well, you don't take that many cases. I know it's because I'm giving more time to the cases to be proficient and make sure everything is taken care of correctly as far as what my coach said that needs to be done. Well, we've seen you take more cases, stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, you did. Well, you've trained other people. Yeah, I used to. It's not my job description. Are you going to promote me for doing that? Well, no. You don't give me a raise for doing that? Like, no, that's your job. No, I'm good. You can get somebody else. There's a lot more better engineers than me. You know how I know that? And they're like, how? I was like, because you promoted them. And I'm still sitting here. So apparently, if I'm not good enough to be promoted, then I'm not good enough to train these people. They really couldn't say nothing. They were just kind of taken back of like, oh, so you think I'm stupid now? That used to piss me off. They just leave me the fuck alone now. They're just like, all right, well, he does his job. His cases are good. He's got a good rapport with the customers, good rapport with the account managers and stuff like that. Just leave him be, you know, until I find something else or you know, I'll figure out something else to do in life. That's just how it's going to be. And that helped my anger and stress drop significantly. I can't say that word. Significantly. And you feel like you get some power back. Whereas before you feel helpless that, you know, and my wife was right, Tisha was right. She's like, there's people that look at some people that just don't really give a shit. They're going in, they're collecting a paycheck and leaving. That's what you need to do. And she's right, as usual. So I love my wife. My wife, she's right all the time, a lot of the time. She's able to calm me down. So that's another thing with having ADHD if you're in that type of job. Now, you can't just change jobs, and everybody's not in the same boat as I am. But like I said before, me, when I say I don't care anymore, I still care about my job. I still care about the customers. I just don't care about being that top tier engineer because I've already been there and done that, and it didn't. I'm not seeing the fruits of my labor. And the way they act of like, oh no, you just need to continue to do that, and eventually you might. When you see other motherfuckers that every day they're asking you for help and they just can't get right or they just keep screwing up, and everybody knows that they're screwing up, and they don't want to work and they're lazy, and I see them get promoted. I'm good. I know what I can do. I can grab the amount of cases I need to grab, fulfill my day. You know, what are you gonna do? Go to HR and say, hey, well, this guy's not. He used to be up here and now he's not right here. And they're like, well, what's changed? Well, nothing. HR isn't going to ask him that question. I don't care about. He says HR don't give a shit. The only thing they care about is the company. They don't care about you as an employee. I know that for a fact. Best thing to navigate that as far as your anger is just not give a shit. Do your job. No more, no less. That's helped me. I don't know if it'll help you or not. But finding ways to divert your mind and not getting down that rabbit hole. There's a lot of things out there. It's just hard to make that connection in order to keep your mind away from that. And I was lucky enough to find one, having a wife, and two, finding ways to try to calm that anger down. It also helps that I'm able to get my testosterone at a really good level and the gym, which it's holidays, so we're not really doing the gym this week. There's just too much stuff that's going on. We'll pick that back up next week, but that does help out. So until we move back to the city, that's all I got out here in the country. I'm not gonna go out there and chop some wood and shit because that's just not me. I'm not gonna go out there and do a nasty ton of yard work because it's a huge ass fucking yard. I got a tractor to mow my yard. That's how big it is. It's 10 acres, but it's not the whole 10 acres that I mow. It's like an acre and a half. But during this season, the grass starts dying off and shit like that. Anyway, I'm not that kind of person. I like working with metals. I like working with cars. So everybody's like, well, there's a lot of woods out there, man. You can build some shit with wood and cut down some trees and shit. And I'm like, no, it's not that I'm lazy. I just don't care. It's just not what I want to do. I don't like it. I've tried it and I don't like it. I like being able to weld metal, bend metal, repair cars, sell them, soup them up. Until that happens, I got this podcast. This podcast should be pissing me off because nobody watches it. I haven't cracked that thing for myself. I mean, again, I could be angry about that, but I'm not because it's still helping me out. It's keeping my mind occupied. Whenever I find time to do a podcast, I do. I try not to be too long winded, but ADHD, come on. So right now, it's a guy that hunts on our property. If you can see him, he just walked by. He's on the podcast. But finding ways to channel your anger to something more positive with ADHD, again, is trying to shelf it, take that mental stock, look at your triggers. And when I say triggers, and I mentioned that a little bit earlier in the podcast, triggers are like for jealousy or things that you know is going to trigger you. And being able to, it's not predicting those, but if you start seeing things going towards it, like if you start seeing where there's clouds, you know more likely you're going to prepare for rain. So what you do, if you're going to go out, you got to make sure you have an umbrella, right? It's the same way that I see triggers. I start seeing them, I get angry about something. So I try to find ways to block it or divert it or do what I can. Same with jealousy. Like since I've done this, I'm not a jealous person. Let me tell you about it. Testosterone, ADHD, and jealousy. Your mind will make some shit up. Like if my wife used to change a routine, oh, that shit will go in overdrive. Why does she not do this? You know, why does she want to go every day at this time, leaving the house? When in all actuality, it's because it's in between the times of feeding the dogs or me taking a break or taking lunch. That's all it was. It wasn't that she was specifically meeting somebody. In my mind, it'd be like, oh, maybe she's meeting somebody else for lunch. Like, she'll be gone 5 minutes. I'm like, what the hell can you do in 5? Well, there was some tiger for 20 seconds out there, but, you know, that's how my mind used to be with triggers with that. And it's not that I stopped caring. It's just I take a mental stock of it. I'm like, okay, I could be pissed off at this. I can be pissed off at that. I can go down this rabbit hole, or I can just be like, look, I got other shit I got to worry about, you know? And it helps. So I really hope this helps somebody out. And I know it sounds like a lot of gibberish, but this is what I deal with on a daily and how I try to attack it with positivity. And again, it sounds like some BS that someone saying, oh, you too can be positive. Those videos are so hilarious to me. It's just like, man, you're making money off people's back of their misery and shit. I would never do that. Because I'm doing all this shit for free. I'm not making any money. I don't really care to or anything. All I do is reach out and maybe get some advice from people. If there's, comment, leave a comment. You don't have to subscribe or anything if you don't want to. It'd be nice, but comment on this and tell me your experiences or tell me what's worked for you. And maybe somebody, like, I like reading people's comments because it's like a conversation that you have in there, and it's like a community of people coming together. We don't know each other, but coming together and helping each other out with different experiences. And I think, to me, that helps a lot more probably than this video does, but at least it kind of starts that conversation. So leave a comment, leave one negative. Everybody's got their things. Haters going to hate, but, put something in there that's helped you out, or something maybe this might have helped you out, or whatever the case may be. I just want to hear from you guys and gals. But again, I'm going to hop off here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching the Daily Dirty podcast. And again, my name is John Croft. If you feel the need to leave a comment, let me know what's going on. Let me know what's going out there with you ADHDers and how you're coping with a lot of things. So appreciate your time. Hope everybody has a great day and has great holidays. Peace.